Welcome to another episode of What the Media Want. I'm your host, Nikki Snell, founder of Press Loft, and in each episode I chat with leading journalists, bloggers and content creators to help PRs understand what they're looking for, from the stories they cover to how to pitch to them more effectively. And in this episode, I'm delighted to welcome Lisa Smosarski. So Lisa is the award-winning editorial director of Stylist and a board member of the Stylist Group. So alongside her role overseeing content across Stylist, many platforms and events and running day-to-day ops of the Stylist Group, she also writes the How to Work column, which is dedicated to supporting women in the workplace. And most recently, she's become chair of the PPA's Next Gen board. So Lisa feels passionately about using Stylist to campaign for women's rights, and there are countless impactful initiatives that they've launched, including their latest campaign, Every Loss Counts. So prior to launching Stylist in 2009 as founding editor, Lisa edited more, Bliss and SMASH Hits, all of which I remember very fondly. And she was also presenter for Channel 4's Make Me a Grown Up. So wow, welcome Lisa. It's so great to have you on.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Lovely intro. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So it would be really great to hear a summary of how you actually started out in your career.
Yeah, well, it's quite a few years now, as you just encompassed. But I mean, my journey goes back to when I was at school, actually, because I made a decision I was going to be a journalist. I didn't know what a journalist was or did, but I was going to be one. And I loved press gang and I got lost in the idea of what a journalist could be. So I made all my decisions to get onto this one course at London College of Printing because I'd heard everyone who goes there does really well, gets into the industry. And that's what I did. I set my heart on going to get on this degree course, did a degree, and got some really amazing opportunities while I was there. Obviously, lots of work experience along the way. But when I was just wrapping up on my degree, I thought, I'll just go for some jobs. I'll see how it goes. I'll just start applying for things, expected a summer of learning how to interview, basically. And that first job was as junior writer on Bliss magazine at EMAP. And I got it, which I was just totally I still can't believe it now, actually. It was so incredible to just walk straight into that industry that I'd really set my heart on a long time ago. So yeah, I started out as a junior writer, had loads of brilliant opportunities at EMAP, which then became Bauer, moving around on their few different titles. Left for a bit, went to a web startup called MyKindOfPlace.com. That was in the early noughties in the first digital boom, and then came back to EMAP. So yeah, ended up editing SMASH Hits first, then Bliss, went back to Bliss, and then More, all of which I'd had a relationship with as a teenager growing up. So they were like incredible opportunities. But whilst I was at More, I got a call telling me about this new startup. And I must admit, I'd been a huge fan of Shortlist. I had always said, if they ever do a women's one of them, I want to be part of it. And so, yeah, got a call asking if I wanted to apply. And here we are, 15 years later. I've been at Stylist ever since.
Amazing. What a journey. And those titles, I grew up with SMASH Hits posters and then followed on to More and learned a lot from that. So what do you do now as editorial director?
Yeah, so editorial director, I oversee all of the editorial coming out across all of our different platforms. As you mentioned in the intro, I have sort of co-responsibility for some of the day-to-day branding. So it takes me into different areas of business. I work across a lot of our events in terms of what the content and our branding and position of the brand. And yeah, I'm still doing a bit of writing as well, like you say, around careers. Hosted a few podcasts recently. So I love content. I'm really passionate about content. I feel like I'm in a very unique position with stylists. I have some wonderful editors that I work with because, we're producing a lot of content across our different platforms. So yeah, and then the other side of my job is really about development. What can we do next? Where else can we take stylists? So often I'll be brewing something new for the brand and thinking about how do we evolve? What else can we do for our audience? Are there different opportunities? So yeah, it's keeping me very busy. Lots of very different things on a different day, but that's the way I like it.
Lots of juggling. So,
yes.
So Stylist has become so influential. And can you talk us through really what it is today and the mission behind the brand?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when we talk about stylists, a lot of people will think about the print first, but we would call ourselves a media brand. In fact, we are this year's PPA's Consumer Media Brand of the Year, as won a couple of years ago. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So that was an amazing, I think, recognition of what we built and how the brand has evolved over the years as well. So what we say is we create content and events that help women. That's the purpose that's behind the brand. We're really, really passionate about our advocacy, how we can support and champion women, hold a bit of truth to power and fight on women's behalf. But, you know, we are equally in love with fashion and beauty as we are in fighting for gender politics. So we recognise that stylists really understands what it's like to be a woman in 2025, and we try and speak to her in all of the different areas where we can be useful and helpful to our audience. So in terms of what that looks and feels like in practical terms, that's a print magazine that comes out monthly, and we have a digital weekly publication. We have our website, stylist.co.uk. We have a very active Instagram account and soon-to-be TikTok account. Well, it is there, but the team are literally coming in as we speak over the next few weeks to start us to help us grow that. What have I missed? We have podcasts. We have an incredible event series as well. So Stylist Live is our flagship event, which this year is taking place in October. And then we also have lots of other events. Stylist Trek is probably our second biggest. That's one where we walk with a half marathon with our audience. And this year we did the Adventure Trek as well, which was up in the Lake District. We have event series like Stylist Network. We have a very active membership community as well. So just coming up to 10,000 women who are subscriber members to Stylist. So that also has its own event series. And we would also describe ourselves as an email publisher. So we have several emails. The biggest are Stylist Love, which is all about shopping and how we can sort of help people break down different trends and understand what's going on. It's a kind of know how to spend your time or what to do and better your money as well. We have Stylist Daily, which keeps the audience informed of what's going on all the different platforms. We have our How to Work email, our Motherhood by Stylist email, the Watch List email. These are all pretty, hopefully self-explanatory. Watch List is what to watch. And that's an area that we're expanding all the time, different niche communities that we can speak to. Different spaces.
That's very, very, very diverse. And I suppose my next question will probably come with there'll be different answers to this, but what's the typical demographic of your audience across those channels?
Yeah, it's fair to say that there are some nuances between them, but we really generally still speak to age 25 to 45 as our core audience. Obviously, traditionally, we had a very urban footprint, but that has expanded a bit as people have changed and migrated through the country. And really sort of post-lockdown, we saw that kind of merging to a bigger, but nationwide across the UK, speak to about 4 million women across all of our different platforms every month, and that magazine circulation is at around 328,000, not 328. A bit difference there. So we have obviously a broader audience, but that is the heartland that we speak to across our core platforms.
Okay, so this is going to be another very wide question, but could you summarize any key opportunities for the mainly consumer PRs and marketing teams that are going to be listening to this today?
Yeah, I mean, there are a wealth of opportunities. Obviously, producing that much content for that many women means that we're always looking for new ideas. Where should we start? If you start with print, I mean, there's very traditional slots that people still vie to be on. I mean, we still have huge, overwhelming interest in things like the Stylist at the front. And then also work life is still incredibly popular, where people put forward their colleagues or ambassadors for their businesses as well. We do a huge amount of health and fitness content through our strong women vertical. So the team there are often looking for new ideas, new new research, new principles within the health and fitness industry that they can build ideas on. I mean, fashion and beauty, again, a wealth of coverage happening across all platforms. But actually, one of the brilliant things is that if you get to one team member, you can get to all platforms because everyone does work across everything. So although we have specialists, each team is built to cross all platforms. So if you were chatting to Hannah Ibrahim as our beauty director, she could represent any of the platforms or talk to you about the different opportunities. Because there are... To be honest, it's sort of an endless list that I could go on here, because obviously we're still very interested in shopping. Shopping still does really well for us actually on all our platforms. But then we're often looking for new careers inside. You know, we have a lot of coaches that come to us, or experts, psychologists who pitch ideas to us as well. So there's a lot of service-based PR first approaches as well, which we find incredibly useful because, again, we're looking for new expertise, new ways of thinking about it. And often a lot of the contributors in the service space, sometimes they'll write for us, sometimes we'll ghost write with them if they've got new ideas or principles that they want to share. So I think, I mean, that's not exhaustive by any means, because we also have a lot of food and drink coverage going on. So again, that will be pitched into, it might come in through the print team. It will often get cascaded throughout the business into the other areas, or people will have like co-responsibility for, say, a product grid on email as well as the style list. So like I say, if you can get to the right person in the first place, that should take you to all the different platforms.
This episode is supported by Press Loft, helping PR teams to provide their product images and content to journalists the moment they want to feature them. With over 1,000 brands uploading ready-to-use images and press releases, journalists can source imagery and content for their articles as they're writing them, without needing to email PR teams and wait for replies. In fact, 20% of coverage generated via Press Loft happens out of hours when PR teams aren't around to respond. It's a smarter, more journalist-focused way to drive media coverage. Visit pressloft.com to learn more and take a free 60-day trial. Incredible. I think the big takeaway is that one team across many platforms. So those pitches are so critical, and we'll come on more.
We really want them as well. You know, we are looking for content all the time. So always really keen to hear new ideas. And, you know, the team will find it hard to reply to every individual pitch, but they are reading them, they're taking them in, and, you know, we get thousands. I mean, I personally still get thousands every week. So there's a huge amount coming into us. But if you're particularly tactical on where you want it positioned, add that to the subject line where possible. You know, a lot of people are using content platforms, I know, with a little bit of personalization. That does really help us just finesse where that should be or what colleague it should go to if it's coming to the wrong person.
That they're real gems. So again, that sort of real finesse on the subject heading. I don't think I've done a single interview where that subject heading isn't so critical. So lovely to hear again. Before we talk more about those specifics on pitching, it'd be lovely to hear particularly about your social channels, which the numbers are just phenomenal. Over 500,000 followers on Instagram, over 600 on Facebook, new stuff coming on TikTok as well. So I know each channel can be different, particularly with TikTok, but what kind of content do you share on your socials? Is it a reproduction of what's going on the other platforms, or is it quite unique?
It's a combination, actually. So yes, we are obviously promoting our own content or trying to start conversations often around our own content and ideas, which is great for people who've been involved with the content as well, because it's additional amplification to the story or ideas or shopping roundup or whatever it is. And we're happy to tag, do collaborator posts, and, you know, get as much reach as possible on those posts. We are increasingly, like I said, we're broadening our social team at the moment. So there will be more social only posting going on as well. That's likely to be around big ideas, big theories, maybe news translations that are going on at the time. Stuff that needs urgency behind it as well. That might just live in a social only post because that's satisfying and engaging in that forum. And we will definitely have more video as well. And that will cross probably the key pillars that we cross as a brand already. So it'll just be another interpretation or translation. We talk about one voice, different accents. That just means Instagram, and actually Facebook is different again. we have different content that we prioritize on each platform, depending on where we think it will perform. So, it's a combination of factors. So sometimes we're commissioning with that social post forefront of mind as well. So thinking about, again, if there are active voices in that space that will add to the story that we want to tell. So there's a huge amount of social thinking going in across the board.
Amazing. And I suppose in the same way, the newsletters, they have their own slant on what's going on the other channels. But does the newsletter generally repurpose what's going on online to drive more footfall to that, the online content that you're producing?
It depends slightly on the email, actually. So you'll notice Watch List, Motherhood by Stylist, and How to Work all have a lot of in-content only email. And actually, Strong Women as well will also have its own, which I left off the list, so I'm kicking myself for that. But yeah, another one of our big emails. But yeah, so they actually have commissions bespoke to the email, because we'll be thinking email first with that. Some of it you can only access via the email as well. And some of it is pushed aside. So it is a combination, but we try and make that a unique experience within the email, an incentive really to be part of that community, because you'll get content that you won't just by dipping in and out from our other platforms. And some of it, we love the intimacy of email, actually. I think you can have different conversations and different gears. So, for example, I write the print How to Work column, but also do a different one for email, which is fortnightly. So you will get some, as a consumer, you'll definitely be getting different added value within that email outside of the rest of our sphere.
And so as a PR, then you need to be aware of both and the opportunities and the slightly different voice of both when you are pitching. So, and stylists love with the newsletter, is that generally pushing to site, or is that unique? Because obviously there's a lot of consumer PRs in the audience. What would you say is the best way to pitch for that?
Yeah, so that definitely has its own kind of flat plan, rhythm, different content cycles. So you can pitch to the fashion and beauty teams, and the majority of that will come through. There's a loves brainstorm that we have. So all of those ideas will get surfaced. The email editor is Annie Simpson, but she is on mat leave at the moment. So she's been covered by Taylor, which is Tayla Mitchell, for the next few months. So she'll be able to help with any bespoke loves pitches, of which there are a few actually. So we find that the product grids are done by the email editor, for example, with support from fashion and beauty. So like I say, it should surface if it comes into the fashion and beauty teams, but there is also another head thinking about that who might actually just have seen something. And then our motherhood email has a product grid for parenting stuff. Now, people who know stylists will know we don't do a lot of that at all, actually. So that email really is the home for that content. A few pieces pushed aside that are kind of bigger, longer reads, but a lot of that sits within the email as well. So Felicity Thistlethwaite, known as Fliss, will take in all commissions and ideas there. But again, she reaches out to the fashion and beauty team if there are parenting specific products that are being sent in. So the hope is we're filtering it through and passing things on to the right places. But if you do want to be super targeted because you're interested in motherhood email, for example, or the Stylist Loves email, then trying to get to those different email heads does make sense.
And then generally, if a brand has budget or the marketing agency has permission to spend, are there many sponsorship opportunities, both for this as well as the incredible events that you do as well?
Yeah, I mean, we have a huge set of sponsors that we work with in various guises over the years. And they can be small spots, like little kind of in-email brand stories, for example, or it could be the headline of Stylist Live. You know, the scale is quite different. So we are always keen and excited. We have a brilliant brand department who basically work between editorial and the commercial teams to bring all of that to life. So often you'll have the different beauty directors, fashion directors inputting to those partnerships ideas if that's what you want. Or you might have more bespoke messaging that you already know what you want and where you want it to sit, but we can make that happen as well. So like I say, there are just so many different opportunities for brands who want to work in a really creative way, particularly. And what we really love to do is to share that audience expertise that we have, that real insight into what makes her tick, the data that we can see performing, just to make sure that those opportunities are right for the audience, which, you know, is having a very customer-centric perspective, but actually just means that it will be more effective for the client as well. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I will share all of the names so you can add as notes so that you know who to go to.
Great, thank you. So we're now going to go on to a few more PR tips, although you've shared so many gems already. So this is, again, another broad question, but what kind of brands or products do you tend to feature? Just small, just large, or would you like to hear from any type of brand?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very long list, but let me give it a shot. So fashion and beauty, of course, incredibly important. That's independent brands. We love to back female founder brands or brands with founders from minority communities. We try and be as representative as possible in terms of who we are presenting, particularly when it comes to things like the style list and the product grids. We try and make that as interesting and curious as possible so you can find new brands that you might not know. So I think that's always a really interesting opportunity for PRs who might be representing some of the smaller brands out there. Food and drink, we're incredibly interested in. Going out, we're really interested in. Services, I've mentioned coaching, careers, psychologists, nutritionists, fitness experts. I'm sure there's some huge one I'm missing there, but again, always incredibly interested in new bits of research, new insight, books, podcasts, film, TV, all of the ENTS categories. Arts we're interested in. We do something in print that's working really well for digital as well, called the Hype List, which is kind of a going out guide or recommendations, which also make a big part up of many of the emails as well. So again, really helping our audience to curate and understand what's out there. Within the motherhood email, again, there's parenting products, and then sometimes they're targeted to children, sometimes to the mother herself. Travel is a really big part of all of the platforms. So always interested in new opportunities and days out there. And obviously parenting, all of the experts that go alongside that as well.
Okay, so say if we had a PR who was representing an expert, the dream pitch would look like what?
I mean, I suspect from what you said already, I will be replicating what other people have said, but a very targeted thought on where that person could be approached. I do always say go to the subject line if possible, because often the team are working at speed, they're skimming, they're trying to get through their emails and the ideas being pitched into them. We get a huge amount of generic pitches, which probably are good ideas getting lost. And I think, you know, helping us to cut through sometimes to where that could be useful or what is new that that person is offering, particularly in the expert-led space, can be very useful. It's good to know if they can write or if they need it to be ghosted. That actually can change how we might work with someone. We actually find, particularly if the PR is writing on their behalf, that actually is useful. We might even commission that. So again, being very specific about how they could contribute. Are they particularly good on video? Have they got ideas that they want to share? Like, what is the forum of which they would prefer to do that? So yeah, for me, it's always going to be about specificity of the pitch. And I do appreciate it's really hard to find the right person sometimes. So like I say, I'll give you a definitive guide so you can share that with everyone. But actually, if it's targeted to somewhere, it is quite likely that will then get passed on if it's gone into the wrong team member. Whereas if it's a generic pitch that's not targeted, it will probably end up being deleted, unfortunately, because the journalists would just think it's not relevant to them. So yeah, again, just being... If you can see a franchise that you like the look of, so whether that's Stylist or maybe it's one of the digital franchises, again, you can tell us where you think it would be appropriate. we might find a new home for it as well. But, it's really useful as a starting point and will definitely get the journalist's attention.
Okay, so mention the section that you're considering in the title, a summary of whether it's an expert, new product. If that product is led by a woman, for example, perhaps put that in the title or very high up. And then if it's an expert, perhaps link out to any video content they've done, any books that they've written, and mention whether they're great writers.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to understand their credentials. So, we want to understand why they're the right person to tell that story, share that story, what makes them the expert. But actually, again, what forum they're best for communicating that story in, be that video, written word, or just being interviewed. So
perfect. Thank you. And then affiliate links. So do you use them heavily online or at all? And does that influence what you're going to be then featuring?
So we do use them. We use skim links. We tend to work with, or occasionally we'll work with clients directly. It's not a huge part of our business, and it absolutely won't determine whether we feature a product or not. So I wouldn't, if you're pitching and that's a concern, I really wouldn't worry about it, because again, it's not one of the key factors that the team are considering.
Great. Okay. And then on to my favourite topic. What kind of imagery do you tend to need from PRs?
We obviously, like everyone these days, don't shoot a huge amount, particularly around still life. We do in print when you get the kind of all singing or dancing shoots. But obviously great, really clean on a white background imagery is still probably the most popular choice. Lots of PRs are really fantastic at sending a Dropbox or something with their pitch. It really does help, actually, because it just means that if that gets forwarded on, or if it's somebody actually could already have a complete story in their inbox waiting to go. It's sort of obvious best practice, as clean and as accessible as possible, really, when it comes to. And you don't need to send just product. A lot of people still send product. You don't need to do that. We're getting more and more PDF books over. That's fine. The team will then request it if they want to have a physical version, which some people do prefer. We do trial a lot of product. Again, the team will come back and request that. And again, if that's available, that's great. But if it's not, we'll understand or have a look at a different way of approaching that. So there is still particularly a lot of young brands who think you still need the stuff to be sent in, and you really don't.
Okay, great. So just circling back quickly to images, on the cutout side, you mentioned, pure white background, brilliant. Lifestyle imagery, are they important to you? So really well shot lifestyle for product particularly?
Yeah, interestingly, we'll probably use more around fashion and beauty lookbook shots or lifestyle imagery. Travel, we will use a lot of. Food, we'll use a lot of. We have an art team that create kind of more bespoke collages, who often do prefer to create something more original that hasn't been seen everywhere. So it probably depends on the pillar that you're coming into or that you're PRing under. So I'd say those lifestyle sectors, like, we're still really keen to get great images that go with it. Particularly food, I'd say that's one that we would really struggle to represent otherwise. And travel, obviously, you've got to see the places that you're going to. But for many of the areas, we'll probably still come back and ask for a nice, clean cutout image. The other thing is, when you're thinking about things like Stylist, obviously that image gets reduced quite heavily. It's quite a small but powerful image. So again, if you entirely black products, entirely white products will struggle in that forum. So again, thinking about where you're pitching to, there is an aesthetic side that we have to consider in that mix, because even like a great pair of trousers that looks big on your screen and really clear, when they're reduced to that size, do just look like a couple of black strips sometimes. So we have to really think about what is the right product choice. If that comes in 5 different colours, we'll go for a more colourful version.
Lovely. Okay, so you briefly talked about the art team using mood boards for your shopping articles, which I love seeing. It's just out of curiosity, is this more for SEO reasons or aesthetic, or a mixture of both?
Mostly consumer aesthetic reasons, yeah. So for us, it's just about, again, originality. Why does this feel different? Why is our edit different as well?
Cool. Okay, so what are you working on next that PRs might want to keep an eye on?
So probably the biggest thing on our horizon at the moment is Stylist Live. It is on October 18th and 19th this year, which is different. It's been in November all the other years, so it's a bit earlier for us, which is very exciting. We've moved to a new venue as well, which is called Exhibition in White City. So we're having a bit of a refresh. We've been 3 years at our last venue, so it's just time to shake it up a little bit and make sure we have lots of people that come every year, so we want to keep it fresh and exciting. So yes, looking at different partners and opportunities for that at the moment. Obviously, we'll be hitting fashion season in September, so we'll be looking for lots of new ideas, new ways of thinking about fashion and trends through the autumn. Yeah, and then the usual Christmas craziness at the end of the year. We don't actually cover Black Friday particularly, so we're much more focused on Christmas and well-curated shopping. And again, how do we back founders within our gift guides and things like that? So we are interested in the story behind the products as well, because it will help in our selection processes.
Great. And so when are you starting Christmas?
Well, we don't start as early as many other brands, actually. So as we usually go live, sometimes late October into November with the digital gift guides, and print will fall into November. So lead time wise, if you're pitching very early September, you'll be in good time.
On more granular tips for PR, what was the last PR pitch that you said yes to?
I say yes to a lot of PR pitches, actually. I think probably the last one was around a careers book, actually. And it was somebody basically flagging to me that this book was on the horizon. They had a new expert with a new way of thinking, and I think we commissioned them for an article on the back of that. And definitely I've had a couple of parenting ones that have landed in my inbox that I've said yes to recently. So one, I'm not doing any of these, by the way, but like off to do some festival with their kids from trying out some kind of new experiences on a couple of different festivals. So we said yes to those. What
made them stand out so well?
Again, super targeted pitches. They were personalized emails to me. Actually, if I speak to the parenting, they're talking to me as a parent as well. So they were recognizing my own personal situation. I might be keen to review that myself. The careers one, obviously, again, I do a lot of the how to work content. Another one, which actually I need to reply to, was a woman pitching a woman pitching a new podcast, and it was full of brilliant ideas. And I was like, do you know what? You've made my life about 100 times simpler this week, because I can really see where you fit into our content mix. And actually, you are the expert. You bring some fantastic expertise. So I think, again, where they've just really understood what I will be thinking about and what I need to fill. You know, we're talking about, we have like 400 pieces of content on the website every month. So it's a huge amount of lifestyle content running through. So again, where we're all thinking, okay, what do we do? We're always thinking, what's next? What's next? So actually, I'd say exactly as I said earlier, people who've made our lives a tiny bit simpler by just targeting that pitch. I do appreciate how hard that is. That's like, I don't take that for granted at all. And I think that counts a little bit as well, because I know they really do want to be in Stylist at that point rather than a generic pitch. And it is astounding how many pitches I get for other publications still. So a different, insert title here, it happens all the time. And actually, it's really hard not to go, oh, I don't feel this is exclusive or special or particularly targeted to us. And I think you can see that in a generic email as well. So I think knowing that you believe you are the right fit or your product is the right fit for our brand is actually very incentivizing as well.
I think you just summed it up so nicely. I always think good PR is really about just making journalists' lives easier, not being another email to check, another email to review and ignore. Or, if you've really done your research and you really care about that journalist workflow, you can really help each other out.
We will do shout outs and ask for things when it's appropriate, but we also don't know what we don't know. So if you're sitting on something super exciting, we do want to hear about it and we want to help amplify that story. And I think, you know, we understand how important that relationship is. Like, we absolutely want PRs to be considering stylists and pitching to stylists. And for us, the barrier is just sheer volume and trying to find a way to cut through and be able to get to the interesting stuff quickly.
And you said you get thousands of press releases a week.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I do dread to think, and all of our inboxes do have filters on them. So a lot of the group ones will get lost because, you know, it's not actually physically possible for one individual to read every one of those, what could be up to, like, for some colleagues, like 1,500 emails a week. So I think, you know, that is the reality of what you're up against. A problem with a lot of the programs, I think, the platforms that people are using, is they do end up in that other inbox, whereas you can tell the person who has individually sent it. Now, that is a big ask, obviously, but for the right big idea, it's definitely the right thing to do. So just finding a way to circumnavigate technology, actually, in a way, can be quite useful.
Well, work with it. You know, we're getting more and more AI summaries of press releases. And if you're using those keywords and those important segments of the magazine and the right person, then actually there's a really good space to be seen more. So you talked briefly about a brainstorming day there. Is there a day of the week it's ideal for PRs to pitch or not to pitch?
That's a good question, actually. I think a lot of people will be sorting out those inboxes on a Friday. So being near the top of that will be probably a good idea. Obviously, it depends on the colleagues, but the meetings do let up a little bit. So therefore, you'll see a flurry come out of my own inbox on a Friday as well. There isn't a really a good or bad day, actually. The brainstorms take place at different points throughout the week. So actually, I think just trying to, for me, it's just a better targeting rather than timing. I wouldn't worry about the timing too much because the team are constantly looking, and we have weekly meetings and then monthlies for the bigger sections. So fashion and beauty might have a longer meeting. But again, it's not like a set first Tuesday type thing.
Is there a time of year where it's best, maybe around the events, that you're completely overloaded and it's best just to pause that pitch and consider another time?
Yeah, I think they're probably the obvious periods of time for us. You know, we do publish throughout the whole year and throughout weekends as well. But, you know, the usual pressure points apply around bank holidays, and kind of Christmas holidays, for example, like that. So a lot can get lost before or after a bank holiday. I say before as well, because people are sort of heads down, just getting extra content through, or the kind of key calendar moments. For us, Stylist Live is a very, very hands-on deck period for the whole team. So the week before and a week after can be quite tricky to get through as well, because we pivot a lot of our attention to amplifying our own event, creating content from what we are creating at the event. So the team work throughout the whole weekend, but then we'll stagger a bit of time off around it. So that's a crunchy 2 weeks as well. But they're probably the biggest pressure points. The rest is constantly going as a machine.
And we touched on samples. You're saying there's no requirement to send samples. People will ask if they want to receive them. But have you had any particularly standout or memorable samples that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some absolutely memorable ones from over the years. I think one of my favorites, and actually I reshared it on Instagram because it flashed up in my memories, and the PR got in contact and went, I did this. My face, my end letter made out of Oreo cookies. Little pieces all glued. It all came in, and the team, you know, it's fun for everyone.
Genius, absolute genius. And then finally, outside of work, what do you do to switch off?
Well, I have 3 kids, so very little. But in the time that I do have, I love Pilates. I have got really into reformer Pilates and become one of those people. I love the team really mock me because I love an immersive experience. If you're ever looking for someone to try it, I'm your girl. So I will get out and socialize and get out and try and experience some of the things that we're writing about. Read. I'll listen. There's not much time left. That's it.
Oh, Lisa, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. There are so many tips that all of us PRs can learn from about how to do our jobs better and hope to get into your amazing platforms. Thanks so much for your time. I know you're incredibly busy, so thank you.
No, not at all. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. And thank you to everyone who pitches us all the time, because it does make a huge difference and we are very grateful. So thank you.
Lovely. Take care then.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to What the Media Want. If you found today's episode useful, we'd love it if you subscribed, shared with a colleague, or left us a quick review. This podcast is supported by Press Loft. If you're in PR and want to make it easier for journalists to feature your brand, take a free 60-day trial at pressloft.com.